All right, we are continuing the theme of naming names, and now we're getting into this crazy Minnesota fraud daycare story. So before we dive into this, first and foremost, everything that you have heard about this story, just put it to the side for just a moment, because I'm going to show you something about this story that corporate media is not showing you, they're not discussing. When I see stories, I always try to ask myself a couple of questions. The first one, what is the source? What is the timing of the incident, the timing of the report? And then this one is also kind of a big one. What is the agenda? I want you to think about those three questions as we get into this story. So apparently in 2020, there was a report that some of the Somali daycare centers in Minnesota were fraudulently taking money from the federal government and not actually having either enough kids in those daycare centers or any kids in those daycare centers. This was reported back in 2020. And that was under Donald Trump's administration. He was still president at that time. So as we go into this story, I want you to ask yourself this question. Why is this story that was reported back in 2020, why is it such a big deal and it's blasted all over the news and social media now? Let's get into this clip. Again, this is where I think you need to think about this question about the source. I think that's very important. Let's start with this clip here.
The Trump administration says it is now withholding all federal child care funding to the entire state. The agency says the state receives $185 million for 19,000 children, and now that money will be gone. And the agency did not specify any alternate plans for families who will be affected. DHS and the FBI said they were surging resources to Minnesota to investigate what they called suspected fraud sites. This all comes in response to a viral video posted by a MAGA content creator. He claims that he uncovered widespread fraud by Somali-run child care centers in the state. CNN is looking into those claims and has not independently verified the accusations. But the Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services is taking the allegations at face value. Take a listen.
Intrepid journalists have made shocking and credible allegations of extensive fraud in Minnesota's child care programs. We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade. Starting today, we require a justification, receipt, or photo evidence before we make a payment.
However, those so-called evidence comes from a man who has posted anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant content in the past. CNN's Whitney Wild speaks to the man behind that video and takes a look at his claims.
So let me go ahead and debunk something right away before we even get to this part. She said that he uncovered this story, uncovered this fraud. No, he didn't. This story was reported in 2020 by Project Veritas. He didn't uncover it. Basically, what he did was he took his camera and he went around to these daycares, which again was already uncovered in 2020 by Project Veritas. And you need to ask yourself how this was able to go viral if it was already reported on in 2020. That's what I want you to hold on to. Now let's continue.
We're from CNN. Can we talk to you? This is MAGA YouTuber Nick Shirley. Back at a daycare in Minnesota, he alleged was a fraudulent facility in a now viral video.
People are going to say this is a left or right issue, but no, fraud is fraud. Over here. And so I'm not out here trying to put a twist on things.
Shirley's viral video, released over the weekend, in which he says he's uncovering tens of millions of dollars in fraud at Minneapolis daycares run by the Somali community, was retweeted by Elon Musk and Vice President J.D. Vance. In the video, Shirley tries to open locked doors and talk to people at various daycares he claims are frauds.
Did you come during their normal operating hours when you came to visit?
I came at 11 a.m., I believe, and I also came the following day later in the day. The point of it is not whether or not I came at the right time of their operation hours. The point is that blacked out doors, they can't give you any information. You call that number, no one answers. I wasn't trying to go inside, and there should be a way for somebody to actually be able to call that number and somebody to be able to answer. These aren't real businesses.
But surely you don't think a daycare should just be unlocked. You shouldn't be able to just walk into a
There
daycare.
should be a reception.
No.
So first he says, well, he came at around 11 and then he came later on in the day and they were asking him, did you come during operational hours? And he said, well, it doesn't matter if I came during operational hours or not. Someone should have been there if this is a legitimate business. Okay. So first and foremost, if there is fraud, there needs to be accountability. If they are fraudulently, if this is happening, if they are fraudulently taking money from the federal government and these businesses are not fully operational, yes, there needs to be accountability. That being said, though, you have to remember a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to tell you about him and who he really is, because even CNN didn't go as far enough to tell you who Nick really is. Number one, whenever somebody just seems to come out of nowhere and all of a sudden they go viral like this and it's blasted all across like the political interwebs, I already told you guys before, be very cautious about people who come out of nowhere and all of a sudden just boom, just take off. There's usually something happening behind the scene. Two, the other thing I want you to pay attention to, notice who is targeted, right? Because see, what they don't tell you, what he doesn't tell you is his family also participated in fraud. His family had a fraud lawsuit against them. But he's not going to tell you that. And there's a reason for that. Once I show you who he really is, all of this is going to make sense. Let's go on more here.
Every daycare is locked.
Their doors are locked.
And so, okay, you bring up a fair point. Then why can't they actually give me information how to enroll a child?
Federal law enforcement has been investigating fraud in Minnesota for several years. Both Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel said on social media they've indicted dozens of defendants. DHS has posted multiple videos of agents they say are conducting a massive fraud investigation.
Do you think that federal law enforcement hasn't done enough? I mean, they would say, look, these fraud cases have been going on, but they've already done like 80 indictments. The cases have been going on, for years.
And why did I show up one day in Minnesota and go to all these daycares, no children? They're receiving millions of dollars. We uncovered nearly $110 million in fraud in one day.
How do you know that all the allegations that you're making are true?
How do I know that they're true? Well, we showed you guys what was happening, and then you guys can go ahead and make your own analysis.
We're coming so we can make our own analysis. Are you 100% sure you're true?
Yeah, I am 100% sure I'm true.
CNN is looking into Shirley's claims.
Hi, my name's Whitney Wild. I'm a correspondent for CNN.
We reached out to several of the daycares featured in the now viral video. Only one daycare facility answered and said they are a legitimate business.
Have you seen the videos, purporting that some of these daycares don't have kids inside?
Minnesota Republicans say despite the new focus from the Trump administration, they have been sounding the alarm on fraud for years.
We have talked about fraud. We have gotten stories. We've tried to push this forward every way that we can.
At the daycare where Shirley showed back up, a stream of children walk inside.
You're saying that this is a fraudulent daycare. There's kids being dropped off right now.
Yes, the Commissioner of Children literally said a week ago this place was closed.
Did you know
They're
that?
showing face right now.
A viral video, disputed claims, and their full fallout remains to be seen.
Dozens of fraud cases that
Okay, so let's go ahead and pause here, and then we're going to get into a little bit more detail that I wanted to show you guys. So I think what people aren't showing you about the story, and again, like I said, if there is fraud, that's why they have an investigation. If there is fraud, they need to be held accountable. Yes, there needs to be accountability. That's for anybody. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. That is for anyone. But what people are asking, including someone who was Alex Jones' co-host, which you're going to see in just a second, what people are asking is, why wasn't there all this attention around this in 2020 when it was originally reported? Why is there so much attention around it now? And this is the part that you need to dive into, because I'm seeing a lot of people talk about this, but they're not giving you the whole story. So again, who is the source? People are saying, well, he didn't just start going viral. He's been going viral. Yeah, how'd that happen? Nick Shirley. I just want to give you a flashback because you need to know who the source is. You need to know where this is coming from. Nick Shirley, the guy behind the Minnesota daycare fraud video, once paid Hispanic day laborers he recruited at Home Depot $20 to hold up pro-Biden signs in front of the White House to gin up fears of an invasion. So if you'll see here, I don't know if everybody remembers this, but these guys here that held up those signs, they were paid to hold up these signs. And it said here in the article, half a dozen Hispanic day laborers were paid $20 each to parade in front of the White House on camera, holding signs with slogans like, I love Biden and I need a work permit for my family. So this is what I said about look at the source. Now, does that mean that the story isn't true? Does it mean that there is no fraud? No, it doesn't mean that. But I'd like to ask, what is the big agenda? And what I think is weird is people aren't asking this question. People aren't asking, where was all this outrage when this story was reported in 2020? Why are we only hearing outrage about it now? And you're going to see the bigger picture here. Let's continue on to the next part. Z Squirrel. Actually, we'll go to this one first. People need to know who he is. Let's go into this video. Then we're going to go to the connection that he has to Cam Higbee. Listen to this.
I've seen Elon Musk amplifying this kid every 30 minutes on Twitter. And this was the moment that we all should have known that it is a grift and it is meant to distract. Because what, did they have these sweaters just like ready to go? Come on, man. This is a joke. Like, oh, we're going to sell hoodies now because we tried breaking into some daycares and they wouldn't let us in, or we came before or after hours. Like, dude, nobody wants you people showing up to daycares and trying to open the doors. You don't have kids. It's weird. But the worst part is Elon Musk is literally calling for Tim Walz to be arrested. But I got a question.
You're fucked, dude. I'm fucked. If we lose, I'm fucked. It does seem that way. You can't just be like, yo, I'm like, how long do you think my prison sentence is going to be? Do you think? Will I see my children? I don't know.
I wonder why Elon would be in jail if Trump didn't win. Kind of makes everything in Pennsylvania make a lot more sense now, doesn't it? That's why he needed to do that $1 million giveaway every day, because he was fighting for his life. But you know what else?
These people are insane. So they obviously
wait for it.
Was sleeping in the office.
In fact, when they did fund us, they realized that we were illegal immigrants.
Well,
I'd
say it's a gray area.
Gray area. Huh, that's funny. It's a gray area for Elon Musk. And it seems to be a gray area for all the white immigrants coming from South Africa. You know, the ones who all got picked up by ICE because they forgot to do the paperwork. It rules for thee, but not for me. Nick Shirley is just a useful pawn in this whole thing because they don't have Charlie Kirk anymore. Kyle Rittenhouse isn't viable no matter how many times they try. Erica Kirk, unfortunately, is the worst widow ever. So they've got to bring this kid in. And unfortunately, his first was a swing and a miss because Amy Bach has already been arrested, and like this stuff is already in the court system. And guess what it happened under, or who I should say? Joe Biden. That's right. It's already being addressed. So this isn't a big story. It's a nothing. And the fact that Donald Trump just took food out of the mouths of every American child that needs some type of government assistance and put that stress on those parents that didn't know they were going to have to find food for their kids on, New Year's Day. So,
yeah, the unfortunate part is that other kids are going to be penalized because of this. And like I said, if there's fraud, there's an investigation, they need to be held accountable. But going forward, when we talk about the bigger agenda, this squirrel is on every damn thing. This squirrel always has it. Nick Shirley, who is being promoted by Elon Musk, JD Vance, and the entire conservative media sphere, is a fanatical Zionist Israel firster. He literally went to Israel to do propaganda tour just a few months back. All the Zionists are doing OMG Somalis, OMG Muslims for Israel. So for people who were not aware, and he started deleting some things, I'm going to show you another one. This was in March 14. Nick Shirley, I visited Israel-Gaza border with the last mayor of Gaza. We stood where Hamas launched its attacks. We saw the destruction and the aftermath of October 7th, and the mayor breaks down the money trail to expose who profits from war and who is funding the war. The documentary breaks down how Hamas operates and funds itself, the brutal history of Israel in Gaza, what life was like before and after Hamas took over in Gaza, why Israel responded the way they did, the Iron Dome failure, the Nova Music Festival massacre, what really happened. This is the most intense investigation I've ever seen done and has been shadow banned on platforms like YouTube. You won't see this video from MSN. So this guy is a part of that same club as Cam Higbee. They were the same ones who went over to Israel, who were at the border, who created those propaganda videos to lie to the American people and let you believe that it's all Hamas and Israel has done nothing wrong. That's who Nick Shirley is. And there's more. Again, like I said, the squirrel is always on it. Let me put this here. Z Squirrel goes on to say this again, see you next Tuesday, because I really don't like the word, but has also been obsessively doing Zionist OMG Muslim takeover of America OMG propaganda. He's literally a paid Israel first cuck whose job it is to produce slop appealing to the base urges of right wingers to make them forget about being slaves of Israel. So what I want people to understand, and this is where they get you. This is not to say that there is no fraud. But what it is to show you is, why are they doing it? Are they doing it because they really are like, oh, Americans, we want you to see how your taxpayer dollars are just going to this, because they really care about the Americans? Or are they doing it for a bigger agenda? What just happened in Somaliland? Do people realize that in Somalia, since Netanyahu announced that they are going into Somaliland, they recognize Somaliland independence, which is separate from Somalia, that they are going in there, going to build a military base. They want to send Palestinians from Gaza to have them displaced in Somaliland. Since that announcement, in Somalia, people are rising up. They are against what Israel is doing. And you coordinate this all together with what Nick is doing, with what Trump is doing, the anti-Somalian rhetoric here in the United States. This is all connected. It's not a coincidence. And this is where two things can be true at the same time. It can be true that there is fraud. It can also be true that this is a part of a bigger agenda. Let's go on some more here. Here's another one. I told you he started deleting stuff. Gen X girl, who is also another one that's on it. Can anyone with skills beyond me find this deleted post from Nick Shirley on TikTok? Link in the second post. There was a TikTok video that he created called Exploring Israel, Travel Experiences and Delicious Food. This is separate from the other one that I just showed you. All of a sudden, this video is now gone. Now, it wasn't removed by TikTok. TikTok is definitely pro-Israel. He removed it. Now they trying to take stuff down. So see this? Link to the deleted post. She added the link as well. Let's go on to another one. Here's the Cam Higbee connection. All these guys roll together. Remember when I made that report, when I told you about the paid pro-Israel influencers that are being paid $7,000 per post? This is that group. Cam Higbee is a part of it. I'm going to show you another video where they were working together. So now you see Cam Higbee is doing the same thing, but not in Minnesota. He's doing it in Washington State. So do you guys see how this is coordinated? Let me go ahead and show you a little bit of this here.
My decoy went up and she could hear people rustling around on the other side of the ring camera as if they were listening to her but not responding.
Kristen Magnuson and I also went to this house right after you guys to see if we get the same response, and we sort of did. We saw the same thing, you know, the windows with vinyl covering, can't see inside. We ring the doorbell, but actually somebody responds to us.
Hey, is this the Gosh Family Childcare?
No.
It's not the Gosh family childcare.
No.
Okay, is this what's the name of the childcare here?
I don't know.
I ask, has this place ever been a childcare? The woman says no. But obviously, Washington state records tell a completely different story.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm trying to show you. Two things can be true at the same time. Yes, there could be fraud, but it also could be that this is a part of a bigger agenda. Because I noticed something once again, like clockwork. The moment that the story came out again, because it came out in 2020, all of a sudden, everyone's attention was directed over to, oh my God, it's the Somalis, it's them, it's them, it's them, instead of this issue with Israel. Because Israel isn't done. They know that they're losing support in the West, especially here in the United States. They know that there's this fraction within the Republican Party where people are split on this position of Israel. So what is the best way to get people back together again? Direct their attention to somebody else. I told you this all through 2024 about the false flags, because their goal is to make you despise Muslims once again, just like after 9/11, so that you can trust them again. So you can go back to supporting Israel. A lot of people walked away from supporting Israel since October 7th. Now here we go again. Now let me show you something else. Let's go back. Now I'm going to show you these two guys together. There is Nick right there, and there's Cam Higbee. And this is Jack Pasibic. So he's an activist with Turning Point USA. So people connect the dots. I'm going to show you a little bit of this here.
The great Cam Higbee taken down. The tents got taken down. Oh, we've got Nick. I see Nick Sorator over there. Nick, come here. Come here.
Nick, Brandy.
What's going on? And Brandy. All right, he'll be back. Nick will come back. Brandy Krause is here.
Brandy Cruz,
Antifa fever dream.
Antifa's fever dream. Sab, tell us what this means that President Trump has finally convened this roundtable.
This is huge, Jack. This is historic. You know, as we were walking up today, I was asking the boys if they were ready to make history today. Antifa has been terrorizing American citizens.
So this was about Antifa, right? Now I'm showing you this to show you these people have a direct line to the president of the United States. Now, I saw people on social media saying that, oh, it was just this random guy, random YouTuber, and he did such great journalism. It's called copy-paste journalism, where you're just doing what somebody else already did a couple years ago. So like I said, it was reported in 2020. But didn't you find it kind of strange by who was boosting them? That's something to pay attention to. Who was boosting them? JD Vance was doing the boosting. Elon Musk was doing the boosting. But these guys have a direct line to the president of the United States. There's Nick right there, right over here. And there's Cam Higbee, who I just showed you. We're going a little bit more here.
For almost a decade at this point. So to have the president of the United States bring all of us together who have been beaten, harassed, threatened, you name it, to come and tell our stories in front of the nation is huge and historic. And again, it's just an honor to be here with Andy, with all of the other reporters around me who have put the time and effort in, who have shed literal blood to show Americans what's going on.
Well, and speaking of which, you know, we
So that's them two right there. So everyone see the connection. Let's continue on. We'll go on here. Nick Shirley is now on PBD Podcast, and listen to what he says, right? Because he's going to say something where he sounds a lot like Nick Fuentes. Listen to this.
These people are like, I saw something, someone's calling me like a PDF. They're saying all these crazy allegations. I'm like, hey, what sucks for them is they're never going to be able to get me. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I'm a virgin. I don't have sex with random girls. You're not going to catch me on no sexual allegation charges. I don't have any addictions. I don't have any vices. So what are these people going to get me for? They're done. I'm religious. I believe in God. I'm everything they hate. I
love that.
So what are they going to get me for? They can't get me for anything. Like, they're going to come after me for my personality or for a stunt I did in high school, maybe. That's maybe the best thing they could get me for, is for Nick Shirley being a young, reckless teenager, just like any.
Sound familiar? Sound familiar? except Nick Fuentes is not pro-Israel. He is. I'll show you what Nick Fuentes said about this in just a second, too. It's really interesting. And then I want you to hear what Owen said. Owen used to co-host with Alex Jones. Owen was calling out some things about Israel as well. You guys know he's not with Alex Jones anymore. So listen to what he said about this.
Happens again. So I'm not really sure whose victory it is, but I am just as mad as anybody about this fraud. I'm just a little curious why now it's a big story and why it wasn't in 2020. And that tells me somebody wants it to be a big story right now. They want you to be looking at this and they don't want you to be looking at something else. And by the way, as all of this is going on, of course, the U.S. taxpayer just spent another $8 billion for Israel. So just add it to the tab. It's like, oh, here we go again. Yeah, exactly. Here we go again. Here we go again. So you tell me who has selective outrage. If you're only talking about fraud in Minnesota, or if you're only talking about fraud with Somalis, or if you're only talking about fraud with these daycare centers, all this other stuff, folks, your whole government is a fraud. Your entire system is a fraud. The entire federal government is fraud. Most of your local and state government is a fraud. You pay 30% in taxes is a total fraud. You don't get a return on investment there. You don't get any value out of that. Somebody else is getting a value out of that. They're either outright stealing it, like the Somalis in Minnesota, or they're sending it overseas to their friends with foreign interest, or they're sending it around to their friends with special interests. So the selective outrage here really has me mad. And here's why. I think we all kind of see this country needs some serious change, some serious reform. We elected Trump. We thought he would be that change agent. We're not so sure that's the case anymore. But if you think that, oh, let's get outraged over the Somali thing and maybe there'll be a couple of arrests. Folks, they started talking about arrests. They were posting about arrests and indictments and pleas that they got 4 years ago.
I'm telling you guys.
Those were official government accounts. Official Trump administration members were posting about indictments and pleas and arrests they made 4 years ago, pretending like it was in response to this latest Somali fraud. It wasn't. So that's almost a fraud in and of itself. The whole system is a fraud. And so I'm just sitting here watching everybody, oh, the Somalis, the daycares, Minnesota. Folks, the whole system is a fraud. The whole damn system is a fraud. So if you're upset over the Somalis, which you should be, and you're upset over this fraud, which you should be, don't stop there. This is like a stepping ladder. This is like a stepping stone to get to where it really is going on. Why do you think they kicked Elon Musk out of D.C. when he said, we're going to find $1.5 trillion in annual fraud? And they said, Elon, get the hell out of here. Folks, the Somali fraud is like nothing. You know that Trump, again, here's your double standards. You know that Trump pardoned, well, he commuted the sentence of the biggest healthcare fraudster. And you know why he did that? Because a Jewish lobby called him and asked him to do it. And so he did it. So the #1 healthcare fraudster of all time, Insafores is his name. He ended up getting arrested again. He committed more crimes. And then he went to his synagogue and allegedly was engaging in domestic violence and abuse at his synagogue. So, that's who Trump pardoned. And there were people pressuring him to do that. He had he was the #1 healthcare fraudster of all time.
Number one. And that's my thing. It's the selective outrage. That's my thing. So people need to understand that two things can be true at the same time. It can be true that there is fraud with the daycare centers in Minnesota. Yeah, that can be true. It can also be true that there's a bigger agenda at play here. I do not think it is a coincidence that you're seeing these stories, this story once again emerge, but this time it's bigger and more popular than ever, right after Israel said that they recognized Somaliland independence. They were the first country to do that. The other countries in the West don't know. Nobody else does. First country to do that. Right after they said that we're going to put military bases there and we're going to, work with them with oil and gas. Right after they said we're going to start to bring Palestinians from Gaza and put them in Somaliland. Right after people in Somalia started to rise up and say, hell no, Israel, stay out of here. Right after just recently, Benjamin Netanyahu announced that they're going to go into more countries in Africa and liberate them. All of this is connected. It's the timing, the bigger agenda. And again, to his point, the selective outrage. Now, I probably don't agree with him on much, but even he is calling this out. Eric, can you pull up, go to Nick Fuentes' Twitter. I want to show people what Nick Fuentes said. And then I'm going to show you guys what an Israeli journalist said about their involvement in this. Let me show you the journalist first. Watch this. Israeli says Mossad was behind the Somali fraud story. Listen to what this guy says. This isn't me. This is them telling you this. Listen to this.
How is the Israeli Mossad related to the recent corruption that was discovered in Minnesota? You're not going to believe it, but there actually is a substantial connection, and it runs through the Israeli Prime Minister office. I'll start from the end. Israel just established relationships with Somaliland, which is not Somalia. But the backstory to the whole Minnesota corruption story is that much of those funds, and again, I think the initial number that came out is about $9 billion. Again, this is crazy. American taxpayer money of, let's say, $15 billion that they imagine were stolen or misdiverted from public funds. About $9 billion of those were sent back to support terrorism, or what they would call the Muslim Brotherhood actions, and this is tied into Qatar. And Israel...
See, this is what I was trying to explain to you. So he is now saying, he's Israeli, he is now saying that that money that they received from the daycare centers, that money was sent back for terrorism in Qatar. And this is how they're going to reel people right back in again to support Israel. First of all, stop it with the Qatar. I'm so tired with the Qatar. Qatar is aligned with the United States. It really is. It's like an extension of the United States. It's like our pinky or something like that. So I don't know why they keep saying Qatar. So there's that. But do you see where this is going? So now it has gone from they were frauding the government, and the money that they got, they actually sent that money back towards terrorist organizations. He's telling all this right out in the open.
Of course, was behind the scenes, and I know people love these conspiracies, in leaking some of the information that is responsible or related to the funding of terrorism using that exact money. So the fact that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has a phone call and recognizes Somaliland is tied into Qatar being a supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood, tied into the Somali funds that were stolen in Minnesota funding terrorism in the Middle East. That is a story that came out right now. It really blows my mind how global terrorism works, but it's such an amazing thing that it was uncovered, and I'm sure there's more news to come on this topic.
Again, this story was reported back in 2020, and they're all saying the same message. It was uncovered 2020, but it works for their agenda. So now they're linking it to, they got this money, they did this fraud, and now, it's terrorism. And I see people falling for it, just like that, bam, getting people right back in line. Let me show you what Nick Fuentes said, because he responded to this. Right here. All of the complaining about Somalians will result in nothing. No mass arrests, no mass deportations, nothing transformative. We all know that. This is more slop designed to rally the GOP base back to this failing joke of a government and pivot from shitting on Israel to Muslims. I agree with him on that. This is what I was trying to tell you. This is what I was trying to tell you. And I think he's right. Ain't nothing really going to come of that. This part here, Andrew. Nick Shirley was literally hired to distract people from the Epstein files. And I saw people online, people losing their minds, and we don't care. It's fraud. It's fraud. We don't care who the messenger is. It's fraud. It's fraud. I'm like, okay. Then they should be held accountable. But now it goes from it's fraud, but according to the Israeli there, they took that money and they sent it back to terrorist organizations. So see how that works? So As I said before, there's always two sides to a story. And then two, another thing to keep in mind is that two things can be true at the same time. So keep an eye on this. I told you guys, I ran through that list before. I may have to show it again for 2026, but there's a whole list, a whole chart of all the paid pro-Israel influencers, the ones getting $7,000 per post. And that's where some of this stuff is coming from. They trying to help out us, or they trying to help out Israel. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.